Well, hello, best friend Tori. How are you?
Hey, Taryn. I'm good. How are you?
I'm just so excited to see you and so excited to be here today because we're going to be talking about stepmothers.
Ooh, what a
I, I
topic.
know, right? Even the word kind of strikes fear in some people's hearts,
It does. It does.
because we have been raised on this diet of wicked stepmothers.
Yes,
We
we
have
have.
wicked stepmother, delicious wicked stepmothers from
Ooh.
Cinderella and from Snow White. Do you even know Snow White's mother's name?
Snow White's mom is the evil queen.
She doesn't even have a name. The Evil Queen is
No,
what they call
she's the
her.
evil queen. Yeah. What else would you call her? Come on.
Hi, my name is the Evil Queen. It's nice to meet you.
And I'm the fairest of them all.
So we have that stepmom to look up to, and then what about Cinderella's mother? Do you remember
Yeah. Do you know
Cinderella's?
her stepmom's name?
I didn't, but we looked it up right before the
Mm-hmm.
podcast.
You looked it up.
I looked it up. Her name was Lady Tremaine.
Lady Tremaine. I vaguely remember that actually from reading
Lady
the book.
Tremaine.
Hmm Man, I read that book so many times to my kids
Did
and to my
you?
sister. Yeah, my sister and my kids. In fact, I still have the copy that was my sister's, and that's the same one I read to my kids.
Wow. Is it
Yeah.
an actual novel or is it a picture book?
No, it's like a picture book, but it's hardbound and it's pretty big,
Yeah.
and
Back when
it's
they
a
had
nice
words
one.
in picture book.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, but so I have a few statistics that we looked up too. Um, I just want to throw that out there a little bit. According to the Bureau of Census, let's see, it says that 1,300 new step families are formed every day. It's a lot.
1,300 in the United States.
Yeah, in the United States.
1,300 new step families are formed every day.
Every day.
Okay.
That's a lot.
It
Um,
seems like it would be even more than that when you
you
think
think
about how
so?
many millions of people there are in the United States.
Yeah, but you got to think a lot of those people are children.
And they're stable for some number of years. It doesn't
Right.
happen, yeah,
Right.
okay.
Yeah. And then some of those are single and some of them are, handicapped and can't have children. Some of
Right.
those are elderly people who, have already raised their families. So,
Right.
yeah. But I feel like 1,300 is a lot.
It is a lot.
Um,
It's a lot.
especially every
Every
single
day.
day, you know, that's a lot.
That
But
is.
the other one that I wrote down is that 50% of the 60 million children under the age of 13 are living with a step parent.
50% of 60 million children.
So that's 30 million
30 million
children
children
are
in the
living
United States.
in the United States are living with step parent.
Holy cow.
Isn't that wild?
That is wild.
It's crazy. Like, I mean, when we were growing up, it was so much less than that. So
Right.
much less. And then when our
Yeah, it was.
parents were growing up, it was even less than that. It's crazy how it's growing. But
Yeah, I wonder if marriage is even really going to exist for this next couple of
I
generations.
know, right? It's hard to say. Even those numbers are dwindling. And not only that, another fact that I read too is that or the average length of a marriage is 7 years.
7 years?
7 years, average length. So, which, like I've been married twice. My first one, I was married for 5 years, and my second one, I was married for 12 years.
So you kind of fall near that statistic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And see, I was only married for a certain number of years, but I was
Mm-hmm.
together with the same person and so I don't count the
Mm-hmm.
actual marriage years. I count the years that I'm together with that same person.
Right. Well,
'Cause
and you lived with him for most of that time too, you
all
know.
of that time. Yeah, Jeff, I was
Yeah,
with him from 1993 all the way
right.
through
But did you date
2000.
before you moved in?
Very shortly.
Hmm
I mean, we dated in 1993, but I moved out in
hmm
1994.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah. So basically, yeah. Yeah. See, my first husband and I were together for 7 years, but we were only married for five of that. So,
Got you.
but yeah. Anyway,
So
so yeah, there's that. So like that kind of brings us into like you and I being stepmothers. We are wicked stepmothers too.
we are the worst.
We are. I know it's funny too because I tend to laugh at my kids a lot. And they used to always tell me, "Mom, you have such an evil laugh." And I said, "That's because I'm an evil stepmom. What do you
That's
want from
right.
me?"
That's right. That's what you get.
That's right.
I was actually in the delivery room with both of those babies.
You knew those children since since the conception, pretty much.
It's true. I was there in the delivery room with both babies,
Hmm.
and I really feel blessed and lucky that I got to be there to see my stepchildren be born
Yeah, not
and
many
to
people have that part of the story, you know?
I don't know any stepmothers that
I
do, honestly.
I don't
But
either. You're the only
I
one.
was cheering on my friend during labor, and
Yeah, yeah.
she and I were really close at that time, and our relationship definitely evolved over time. We had a
Hmm.
hard time being parents together. It was not
Yeah,
easy, and we can get into that a little later too. But
yeah.
becoming a stepmother, the kids were 4 years old and 6 years old when they got divorced and we got together.
Hmm.
And so they already knew me really well. They already had been spending nights at my house. They had
Right.
already been, and so
There was a
it
bond between you two, between you and them already.
it changed
Oh yeah, I'm
when
sure.
their dad left their mom and moved in with me. Everything
Hmm.
was very different.
Hmm.
And
I'm sure it
we
was very
lived in
confusing time for them.
oh yeah, but we always did our best to make sure that the kids had what they needed and what they wanted, and we tried to make sure that we communicated with the kids and that we didn't put the kids between us.
Hmm.
We had our
Yeah.
fights, but we didn't drag the kids back and forth between it as much as we could.
Right.
We didn't
Yeah.
involve them with the discussions on things, and um it was hard.
Yeah.
We had hard times.
How old were you when you became a stepmom?
33.
33. Okay. Yeah. I
I was
was
33.
I was 30 when I became a stepmom. Um, I had been divorced for a few years and I had been, so I was a single mom for a few years, and I had dated a little tiny bit, but not much. Uh, but yeah, I met my second husband and it was kind of weird how we met. We met because I was moving my stuff into a storage unit in between moving out of my house into my mom's house for temporary until I could find a new apartment. And he was the manager at the storage unit. So that's how we met. And we kind of we hit it off right away. He ended up helping me move a few of the big stuff that I couldn't do myself um and we just talked and talked and talked and we got all our kids together at the park or at McDonald's or whatever a few times and yeah, and then we got married, and I actually fell in love with his kids. That was the thing is I fell absolutely in love with his kids the first time I met them. I was in the park playing with them, you know, rather than
Yeah.
talking to him. But but we actually got married very quickly. We knew each other for 3 weeks when we got married, which was crazy. Super crazy. But like I say, I loved those kids and they needed me as much as I needed them. But anyway, it's kind of a hard time because he had gone through a really crazy divorce like the year before. Um, and he was having a lot of issues with custody and stuff like that. And I came in and jumped right into that battle with him.
I
And
remember I was there quite a bit too. I was there
yeah.
in court with you,
Hmm.
testifying, telling my side of the story about what it's like to be with you guys because
Hmm.
I got to see you parent together.
Hmm.
I got to be there all the time when we did activities together as families. And
Right,
um,
right.
And
You
so they
you were
called.
witness to a lot of the things too, as far as like what we had to discuss in court. You were witness to some of the, the fighting and the back and forth, and the kids crying in between, having to leave us and go back with their mom, and you know, so many things that you witnessed that you were
And the
able
kids'
to.
stories, when the kids would talk
Yeah,
with my kids or the kids would talk with me, I would hear things
yeah,
come up and I'd be like, "Really? That happened?"
yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
they were sleeping where?
Right? Yeah,
They were doing what?
yeah.
Like there were things that seemed a little bit odd about stuff going on, and I don't want to get too into the details, but
Hmm.
there were things that we were concerned about
Yeah,
that I heard I was concerned about because the
yeah.
kids were talking about it around me, and I would ask you about
Hmm.
it, and then we'd have to investigate and stuff, like
Yeah, yeah.
it was hard.
It was very hard. It was a rough time for everybody involved. The kids were unfortunately in the middle of it. And, you know, my husband at the time and I, their dad, we tried really hard to keep it away from the kids,
Right,
and, that's one thing is that like when you blend families, well, even before that, when you divorce, okay, and you have kids involved, you have to be hyper vigilant in order to not have them in the middle, you know? And it's so um damaging when parents put the kids in the middle. But the problem is that even if one parent agrees, yeah, we need to keep the kids out of things, the other parent may be like, okay, yeah, but this is my weapon. This is how I'm getting back at my ex,
right.
and that's the sad part, because that's what puts kids in the middle and they don't understand. They don't know. It's not their fault that you don't get along with their other parent anymore. It's not fair to them, but it happens all.
One time I was complaining to my auntie
Hmm.
that my mom and dad always complained about each other to me, that my mom would say,
Mm.
"Your father always blah, 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 blah. Your
Uh-huh.
mother always blah, blah, blah." And I was getting it from both sides, and there was nothing I could do about it. As their
Yeah.
child, there was nothing I could do to fix the fact that my dad didn't
Mhm.
put the toilet seat down or whatever the hell the problem was.
Right, right.
I couldn't fix that problem.
Yeah. And
And
it's not your job to fix that problem,
right, but
you
what's
know?
the kid? I mean, the only thing the kid can do is internalize all of the
Mhm.
hurt and the pain and the frustration going on between the parents.
Right.
And so that happened a lot to me. Anyway, I told my auntie about that. She said what I should do is look my mom in the eye and say, "Don't talk about my dad that way."
Mhm.
And then I should look at
And
my
vice
dad in the eye
versa,
and
yeah.
say, "Don't talk about my mom that way."
Mhm. And did you ever do that?
I did. And it was incredibly powerful for both of them.
Oh, I bet. I bet.
I was like,
Mhm. Yeah, because
I
your
can't,
parents probably didn't realize what they were doing.
right,
They were just venting, and it didn't occur to them that it was causing you damage.
right. That I'm just right in the middle and there's nothing I can do about anything.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
they continued to do that for a really long time. They probably still do it if I was if my mom was still around. But
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever.
But yeah, that was one thing that we tried really hard not to talk to the kids about it, not to talk about it when the kids were within earshot, you know? And we just tried really hard. And that included like one of the things that their mom liked to do was bribe them, you know? And I'm not trying to call anybody out, but it's one thing that she tried to do, and it was so confusing for them because they'd be like, "Well, I want to do this, but my mom says I have to do this, and since she gave me the Xbox, I have to, you know?" And it's like that's not fair, you know? But and that's one thing that I so strongly um feel like it shouldn't be happening, because I was a stepkid too. And my dad that raised me, my stepdad, he, when him and my mom first got together, obviously I was my mom's only child. He had kids from a previous marriage, but they were older and they were in California where we lived in Colorado. And so he would spoil me rotten. Spoiled me rotten. Took us everywhere. We would go on day trips and everything into the mountains. We'd go fishing, whatever. And anything I wanted, I got, you know. Um, and then my sister was born. I was 8 years old when she was born, and she was his natural child. And he swore up and down that he would never treat us differently, but whether he realized it or not, he did, you know. And granted, my biological father wasn't in the picture, but I still felt the difference between my sister and I in the family dynamic. It did change. And it changed differently than it does for, a natural child to have a full natural sibling, you know. And I know that because I have tons of cousins that have that.
Mhm.
And, it was different. So, and it feels very bad to the kid, you know. It feels bad.
Well, one of the things that I remember you telling me about your family was that you were forbidden at one point to talk about your biological father
Hmm. Hmm.
when you were about how old? About 5 years old or
I
something
think I was around 5 years old.
when your
Yeah.
new daddy came into the picture.
Well, he had been around since I was 3. So I already knew him. I hadn't seen my biological father since I was about a year, maybe 2 years old. And
But your 5-year-old mind
yeah.
was probably looking for answers about your bio dad, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah. I
you just
remembered
wondered
him at
about
that
him.
point. I remembered him and I had things, there were a few pictures, not a lot, but a few pictures, and there was, a couple of things that he had bought me, like a stuffed animal that I really liked to carry around. And I would always say, my daddy bought me this, my daddy bought me this, you know?
Mhm.
Um, and that was actually what uh caused it caused things to change. I had real snotty like gone up to my dad, my stepdad, and I said, "Look, this is what my real daddy bought me." And I mean, I was 5. I didn't, I wasn't
Right.
trying to
Just
hurt his
testing out the
feelings or
waters.
anything, but yeah, I
Right.
was 5. And it hurt his feelings real bad. And I guess him and my mom had a discussion and she decided that we were no longer going to talk about him or his family and they were no longer part of our lives and I wasn't to talk about it ever again. So I lost that part of my family completely, and over the years, there were times when I wanted to ask questions, but I wasn't allowed to. So I
Right.
just didn't. I never questioned it. I just didn't. And, so over time, I forgot about everything and everyone. And, as an adult, I didn't know any of their names even, except for my biological father, but that was the only one.
What a beautiful thing it was to go to South Carolina and meet your cousins
Yeah.
and get to see where your grandmothers lived and all those things.
Hmm.
It's so neat
Hmm.
to know that you got
Yeah.
to reconnect with that side of your family.
That was really, really neat. And I'm really thankful for that.
It makes me sad for all of the children who are out there that are missing half of their family or
Yeah.
missing half of their story,
Hmm.
who don't know, whatever happened to their biological parent or
Yeah.
their.
Yeah. Well, one thing when I was growing up, because I had the relationship that I did with my dad, I I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything when I was growing up. I didn't have the desire to go find this other family because I had my family,
Right.
and it didn't occur to me.
Right.
I
And
just
just for
didn't.
our listeners, I just wanted to say again that whenever you say my dad, you're talking about your stepdad.
Yeah.
You're talking
Yeah.
about the man who married your mom and raised you from age
Hmm.
5 until you left home.
From age 3.
Age 3.
Hmm.
Okay, age 5 is when you couldn't talk about it anymore.
Right.
So
Right.
age 3, he came into the picture.
Hmm.
I came
Yeah.
into the picture at age 5.
Exactly.
So I knew you right around the time that you had a new daddy,
Uh-huh.
and
Hmm.
I kind of remember you talking about that. I remember you were at the wedding.
Yeah, I was 6 when they got married. They got married the summer after kindergarten. So when you met me, I was still a Varn. That was my birth name. I
That's
was
right.
Yeah. And then that summer
I
we went
remember when your name changed.
yeah, yeah, we went to California and on our way there my parents stopped in Reno and got married and I was at the podium with the officiant just looking over watching my mom and dad get married and soon as they did, I'm like, "Oh, I can call you daddy now." I was so excited. So excited. And then they changed my name that summer and yep, went into first grade as a Moreno.
There you go. Cha cha cha.
Cha cha cha.
Moreno.
Yeah.
It's pretty
But
awesome.
yeah, back to being a stepmom though. Um yeah, we had a lot of challenges. We really did. But at the same time, um there were a lot of really cool things about being a stepmom. You know, um developing the relationship between me and my stepkids because you knew your stepkids ahead of time,
Yeah.
which was a whole different experience, I'm sure. But me, you know, bonding with my stepkids and learning more about them and them learning more about me, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. We had another boy that moved in with us around the same time that we got married, and he was 15 at the time, and he lived
Wasn't he
with
your
us.
husband's cousin
Uh,
or nephew or something? Like, was he related somehow?
it's kind of a long, weird story, but he
Somebody's
grew up.
stepson?
No.
Okay.
So he grew up living with my husband's ex-wife's parents. They raised him. He was their nephew, and they raised him because him and his brother were taken away from their mom at a young ages, and so the two of them were raised by um the kids' mom's parents, the kids' grandparents. So that's where his relationship came from. But they kicked him out of the house when he was 15, and so he came to live with us. And he lived with us until he graduated high school and went on to the Marines.
Nice.
So at that point, I had five kids in my house. Two permanent, like full-time rather, two full-time kids, which was mine and the boy that came to live with us.
Mhm.
Um, and then we had my husband's three children who were, um, every weekend. We had them every weekend in the beginning. Um, but yeah, bonding with all of them and having my daughter bond with them too. There was a lot of fun times. There was a lot of challenging times too, um, because we had different rules at our house than they had at their mom's house. So they would come over on a Friday afternoon, and it was like that whole 24 hours, that first 24 hours was rough because they had been living with their mom all week long and getting, into the routine from her house, and then they come over to our house, and it's
Right.
completely different. And so it was like we had to retrain them every Friday, you know? And I know it was definitely hard on them, you
Hmm.
know, but it was also hard on us as parents because I I just didn't want to raise them the same way she was raising them, you
Right. I
know?
had the same problem. We had the kids, we had them for a while. We were doing 4 days on and 3 days off, and then 3 days on and 4 days off. We that it was confusing. It was too hard. So
Hmm.
we switched to 7 days on and 7 days off. So every
Hmm.
Friday they would switch off with us and come to our house. So half of the time I had a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a newborn.
Hmm.
And I had to take the two kids to two different schools. So
Hmm.
I had to pack up all four children first thing in the morning
Hmm.
and get them all out the door by 7 o'clock in the morning so I could get the two kids delivered to school on time and make it back to the apartment. Yes, apartment. I was
Yeah.
living in an apartment with
Hmm.
four kids and a dog. We got rid of the dog. Well, the dog went to go live with my ex-husband again.
Hmm.
And the kids, we had to get out of that apartment. We had to. It
Yeah.
was we outgrew it big time.
Well, yeah. Fast. You outgrew that apartment fast.
Well, the deal was I prayed for babies for 10 years.
Hmm.
You know, I cried every time I saw a pregnant waitress. Oh, I want babies so badly. I want babies so badly.
Hmm.
Someone answered my prayer, be careful what you ask for. You might just get them.
There you go, four babies.
Ta-da! Four
Ask and you shall
babies.
receive.
Right. Thank God.
You know what though?
Thank
I
you.
had the same kind of situation. Like, I mean, yes, I had a baby, but like I always dreamt about having a big family, having lots and lots of children. I wanted at least four or five children.
So
Wh-
did I. I wanted to adopt 10 of them. I wanted
Yeah,
to
I did
adopt
too.
10,
I
one
did
from
too.
every continent.
Yeah. I want all the babies, but like I only was ever able to have one biological child, and that kind of sucked. But I had a lot of kids anyway,
Right?
and besides the ones that that were, excuse me, in my house, my kids and my stepkids, I also had every weekend, I had at least 10 children at my house because
Right.
all the friends were coming over and all
The
my
neighborhood
friends with their
kids.
kids were coming over and we did stuff every weekend. We had bonfires with s'mores every weekend. We had, we were doing Cajun boils throughout the summer. We had a swimming pool. We had a, trampoline. We had game systems. We had all the stuff the kids wanted. So they were always at our house. Which
That's
was
cool.
fun. I loved that. I miss having 10 or 15 kids at my house every weekend, as
Well,
exhausting as it was.
that's happening here now with the Dungeons and Dragons with my
Yeah.
son. My
Yeah.
16-year-old does Dungeons and Dragons, and every Friday
Hmm.
they're at another friend's house. So we don't have to do it every weekend, but every
Hmm.
fifth weekend or so, our house is full of 15-year-olds, and it is a
Yeah.
blast. It is so
Yeah.
funny.
It is. It's fun, isn't
They
it?
make
I
so
I
much noise.
Yeah. Oh, I
But
love having all the kids at my house. And it was
I
like
do
a
too.
circus, because I had all these kids just running in and out and running circles around me and asking for more food and asking for more drinks and what can we
Doors
do
opening and
now?
closing.
And
Do we have any balloons, any water balloons? Do we
yeah, exactly. Mud running from one end of the house to the other, whatever. And I was,
dogs coming and going, kids and dogs?
yeah, I had tons of dogs. I had cats. I had it was a crazy house for sure, but man, I loved it. I loved every minute of it. I loved getting to know my kids' as friends and their parents most of the time.
Most of the time.
Most of the, there was a few that were a little sketchy, but I loved the kids. The kids were all, I was kind of the sanctuary for some of them. Some of them when they would, have issues with their parents or their step parents, they would call me and they would
Right.
talk to me about it, and I would just give them support and listen. And if they wanted it, I'd give them some advice, sometimes even when they didn't want it.
Whether or not you need to hear this.
Yeah, but I loved it. I loved having all the kids over. It was a lot of fun.
I've been enjoying them now that they're getting bigger too, though. You
Hmm.
know?
Hmm. It is. It's the older they get, the relationship changes,
Hmm.
and it does. It gets better as they get older because you don't have to parent as much,
Right.
you know?
So part of my story is that my oldest stepson, Ben, is he's now 26 years old. He was born in the year 2000, so he's still, yeah, he just
25.
turned, well, but his birthday's in June.
Oh,
Yeah, he's 25.
well, I was gonna say, but if he was born in 2000, yeah.
He's 25.
Yeah, he's 25.
Sorry.
Michael's 25 too. He was also born
It's
in
hard to
2000.
believe that they're a quarter of a century old already. But
No.
so Benjamin had a little bit of a, well, he has autism.
Hmm.
And so the beauty of autism is that their brains work in a different way.
Hmm.
He was very good at mechanical things. Like he drew a whole diagram for me of a combustion engine and exactly how it works. Like these are the pistons. He was 7 years old. He drew a diagram of a combustion engine. These are the spark plugs. This is the aerator. This is the carburetor, and it comes in through here, and the gas mixes with the air, and then it makes an explosion, and the pistons go off, and it fires he explained the whole thing to me at 7 years old.
Wow.
And I was like,
Blown away, I'm sure.
holy guacamole. He could
Yeah.
name every car, every make and model of car
I
coming at
loved
us.
that so much. I used to love quizzing him because it
Right?
was
What's
so
that?
neat
That's a
to watch
Subaru.
his
What's that?
brain
That's a
work. And
Nissan. What's that? That's a Toyota. That's a
like,
Toyota Sienna. What's
like
that? That's a
that.
1942 Ford. Like he
Yeah.
could name it off as fast as they came at us on the street,
Yep.
especially classic cars. He loves classic cars.
Hmm. Hmm.
It took us 3 years to teach that kid how to tie his shoes.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like there were very simple things that were incredibly frustrating with him.
Hmm.
Incredibly frustrating because we take them for granted, little things that,
Right.
little
Hmm.
emotions that come up or connections that come up
Hmm.
are are natural for us were not natural for Ben.
Right.
Ben was scared to death of the water. Ben was scared to
Mm-hmm.
death of riding his bike.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
his
remember
mom
all
and I
that.
were very different about how we handled things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I was the one who was like, you're afraid of riding a bike, we're going to ride that bike until you're no longer afraid of it. We're going to
Right.
go out there and try it and try it and try again and try again until it
Mm-hmm.
becomes natural for you to ride a bike.
Yeah.
And his mom was more like, if you're not interested in riding a bike, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's really okay.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to ride a
Yeah,
bike ever
that's
in
kind
your
of
life.
similar to some of what we went through too, is like my youngest son, he hated reading, hated it. And
Right.
his mom and his dad didn't think it was a big deal. They're like, oh, if he doesn't want to read, he doesn't have to read. And here he's in second grade by this point, and I'm like, you guys, this is not okay.
Right.
He needs to learn how to read, and I'm the one that sat there with him and taught him and, helped him through his frustrations and, gave him tips and tricks, and I would read to him every single chance I got. And, after a while, he learned it. He was so happy when that kid, the first time he read a full page, and granted they're children's books, so a full page is like what, two, three paragraphs.
Right.
The first time he was able to read a page himself and not have to be corrected or helped, this child was elated. He was so happy. He was so proud of himself. And just to see the joy in that kid's face, knowing that he could finally read,
Yay.
it was amazing. And
I
I love that I was a part of that.
I helped Ben learn how to swim too. Ben did not
Hmm.
want to swim.
I remember that.
He was scared
Yeah.
to death, and I took him out into the water and I held him for a long time. I just held him against me
Hmm.
and I just kept saying, "You're okay. You're okay. I have you. You."
Yeah.
And he was scared and clinging to me and shaking and being really dramatic. And
Hmm.
I just kept saying, "You're okay.
Hmm.
Put your toe down. You can reach the bottom of the pool." Like,
Yeah.
just, I got you, and I stayed
Yeah.
there with him forever. And then finally, like, after doing that a few times, he managed to get a little more confidence and was able to swim back and forth across the pool by the end of the summer. Like we
Hmm.
solved that problem. But
Yeah.
it took me having to push him over that threshold of
Hmm.
like having to try it. The
Hmm.
idea of having to try something is terrifying to him.
Yeah,
It
I
was.
had that
He's
same
better
issue with
now.
swimming with Caitlin. Yeah, my youngest. But yeah, I remember all that. Yeah, that was hard for him, but you were
And
there
then we
for
had
him.
Jacob too,
Hmm. Hmm.
just to kind of fill everybody in on that story a little bit. That was a heck of an adventure with Jacob. It was a heck of a learning experience. Jacob was born female
Hmm.
and at some point transitioned to male in their late teens. Um, Went through testosterone and top surgery and did all of that and is now Jacob.
Hmm.
And so we had to go through that whole process with Jacob of
Hmm.
learning about transgender issues, learning about um, how to raise a transgender child.
Yeah.
It was very interesting,
Hmm.
and continues to be. But
Yeah.
Jacob is so beautiful. Jacob is just
Yes.
an amazing person,
Hmm.
um, very
So
creative,
caring, so loving
very
and
loving,
caring. I love that kid so much.
really funny, and
Oh yeah.
um, very much unique and okay with being unique.
Hmm.
Jacob is a one of a kind of guy.
Oh
He's
yeah.
a one of a kind.
He
And
is.
I'm so proud of him just for being who he is.
Me
Just
too.
he's just a funny nut Cheerio.
Yeah.
Totally proud of who he is and what he does,
Yeah.
and I'm proud of him for that. I'm so
I am
anyway.
too. I really am. I am. I love the fact that he just doesn't care about what other people thinks. He just is his own person and you know what? Here he is. And I love it.
Colorful, funny,
Yeah.
smart, energetic,
All the
um,
things. All the things.
friendly, loving, helpful.
Yeah.
wonderful person. I'm so proud of my two stepkids are such a blessing to me.
Hmm.
I'm so glad that I got to be part of their lives, that I got to be part of raising them, that I got to
Hmm.
witness their evolution, that I got to see them change
Me
and grow
too.
and become the people that they are.
Hmm.
Right now, Ben is really helping his mama out. His mother has had a lot of health issues in the last few years, and she's really depending on him to help with things around the house and help drive and,
Hmm.
cook and do all the things. And he's been really useful to her,
Hmm.
So I like how they're turning out. How are
Yeah.
yours turning out?
Mine are fabulous. You know what? And here's the thing too is, so my stepkids, I just consider them my kids. I raised them for 12 years, 12, I almost said 12 years old, 12 years. Um, they were 2, 4, and 6 when they came into my house and into my life. And so I raised them for 12 years. The two youngest don't even remember a time before I was around. And and I love those kids like they were my own. And so for me, they're just my kids. They're not my stepkids, they're my kids. They're my bonus kids at the very least. Um, but yeah, they're amazing. They're such great adults. So I'm very proud of my kids. They turned out to be really caring adults. The boys work a lot. Caitlin, she works as much as she can, but she's a single mom of two children. Her babies just turned 3 and 4.
Yay, grandbabies!
Yay! That
I
is
was
my
so
most
excited
favorite
when they
thing.
got to come over to visit you right before the trip at
Me
my
too.
house. You guys, it was so cute to watch you hanging out with them and painting fingernails and playing games and doing all the funny things. We're doing a little dance party in the
Little
living room.
dance
We just had a
parties, yeah.
ball with those babies. They are
My
so
baby
cute.
Amora got to do my hair. That was fun.
Yes.
I just love those babies so much. It was so exciting to become a grandma. And sorry, here's my puppy. She's crazy. She's been trying to jump on my lap. Oh, there we go. I love being a grandma so much. And unfortunately, I don't live close enough to where I can see him as often as I would like. But we try and do like video calls. My grandson, he's the 4-year-old, he has a Facebook Messenger that he'll call me with on a video call, and it's just the best. I just love it. Once in a while,
Facebook Messenger.
yeah, Facebook Messenger, it's so cute, and he'll call me, and it's so funny because sometimes he'll just ask me one question. He'll call me, he'll be like, "Where do you live?" And I'll be like, "In New Mexico," and he'll be like, "Okay, bye."
Just checking. Bye.
Yeah. Or he'll be like, "Hi, how are you?" And I'll be like, "Good, how are you?" He goes, "Okay, bye." Or like other times he just wants to stay on the phone forever and talk, and this is my little sister, and this is my ball, and here, look at this game, or listen to this song, and watch me dance, and I love it.
So great. What a gift every time they call, huh?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. It's amazing. I love it. Um, Once in a while they'll fight over the phone. I want to talk to her. No, I want to talk to her. But I'll tell you what, being a grandma is just the best. It's the best ever. I just love those babies so much.
I should make them some little sweaters,
You should.
some
Oh
little
my God,
matching
yes.
sweaters.
That would be so cute.
I need some babies to crochet for.
Yes. I got you covered.
You got me covered? You got
I
babies to
do.
crochet for?
I do.
That'd be
Yeah.
so fun.
I have a cousin that just had a baby too.
Oh
Actually, I
yeah?
have two cousins that just had babies. What am I thinking? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look at that. More cousins to stay with next time we
That's
go.
right.
Yay, cousins. We love cousins.
We sure do. We got plenty.
Cousins are the best.
My cousins really are the best. I have some really great cousins. But
Good.
so what else about being stepmoms? I have a question for you actually.
Okay.
How did you feel about becoming a stepmom in the very beginning? Like when you first became a stepmom? What did that feel like to you?
Well, I had big dreams and aspirations for those children. I did. I wanted to be the kind of stepmom that loves their kids like they're their own, like you're talking about. And I definitely was. I am. I definitely am. I love them as much as the biological children I gave birth to because I was there the day that they were born.
Mhm.
I feel fully responsible for everything having to do with the way that they turned out.
Yeah.
Um, and so I claim them. I claim
Mhm.
them as mine.
Mhm.
Um, and I felt very responsible. I felt scared that I wasn't going to be enough for them or the right kind of person for them.
Mhm.
I was very concerned that we were never going to get along, all of the parents, that we were
Mhm.
going to always have disagreements about how things should be done, and we did.
Mhm.
I was afraid that, I had fears and I had hopes and dreams,
Mhm.
and some of my hopes and dreams were pretty crushed.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I wanted to be I wanted to be accepted by them in a certain way.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I never really was.
Mhm.
And it's okay
Mhm.
now. You know, I totally understand now
Mhm.
how things unfolded and why we are the way that we all are.
Yeah,
And I forgive everyone for everything.
that's good.
I'm I'm just glad we all survived
Yeah.
and that we're
Right?
all doing okay,
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard enough parenting with two, and then you add two more or even one more, and it's
right?
10 times harder, you know?
And then parenting too that you have half the time.
Yeah.
'Cause you have them for a while, and like
Mhm.
you said, like every Friday we had to retrain them. Like
Yeah.
we had to, go through the process again every Friday. We definitely
Mhm.
went through that too,
Mhm.
where it was just falling back into our routine and, our rules and our rhythms at our place versus their
Yeah.
place. It was just
Yeah.
hard, but
Mhm.
must have been a million times harder for them since they were little kids.
Exactly, and they don't understand, like I said, they don't get it. They don't understand the whole dynamic of it. Not
Right.
when they're that little, you know. They really don't. And I mean, even at older ages, it's hard for them to deal, but it's definitely hard. When I first became a stepmom, I was so excited to have more kids in my house. Like I said, I always wanted more kids, and I got them, and I was so excited. And I did too. I had hopes and dreams for the kids and for the family, and I really hoped that things would go smoothly between me and their biological mom, but the beginning was really rough. Because, like I say, he was already going through battles with her over custody and whatnot, and that didn't stop. At least not
Yeah,
for a long time. That the first probably 6 years of our marriage, we were in and out of court more than anybody I've ever known in my life. It
right.
was, there was a section of time where it was almost every single month that we were in the courtroom.
I
And
remember that because I
yeah,
was too.
yeah, Taryn was there
I was
with
in the
me. Her
courtroom with you
husband went
guys.
with us. We had this whole posse of people that would go with us. My mom even came with us a couple of times, and um, yeah, it was a lot of craziness. It was so hard because it was expensive with lawyers, and we only had lawyers for maybe a couple of years. But then I started learning so much, and I just did it all myself. I'm like, I can fill out these forms, I can prepare you. I was the one that was taking notes for everything, documenting every little thing, and yeah, so it was a lot of work, and I had hoped things would go a lot smoother, mostly for the kids' sake. For our sake too, but mostly for the kids' sake.
Did you ever feel like you were fighting his battles?
hmm Very much so, but at the same time, I got to the point where I I felt like it was more the kids' battle than his. And so I wanted good things for those kids. I
Hmm.
wanted their life to be as easy as possible, and that's why I kept fighting, because had I thought about it as his battle, I would have quit a lot sooner than I did. Well, I never really quit, to be quite honest, but I would have quit if I kept looking at it as his battle. I would have quit for sure. But to me, I wasn't fighting for him, I was fighting for those kids.
Right.
So,
I felt the same way until a moment in time
mhm,
when I got into a big argument with the biological mother.
mhm,
And she and I, just had a lot of words and it was pretty ugly. And then my husband didn't really defend me or back me up in any way on that situation.
mhm,
And that's when I kind of threw up my hands and I said, all right, if you're not going to fight for them, neither am I.
mhm.
That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
If you're not going to fight for them, I'm going to let them
yeah,
live with their mother. If
mhm,
that's where they want to be happy, fine.
mhm,
And I let go of it all.
yeah,
And that was when Benjamin was about 14 years old.
mhm,
So, like, he just kind of decided he didn't want to live with us anymore. He
mhm.
wanted to live with his mom and his dad because we had rules and regulations and we had, reasons that we needed him to do things. And he didn't like all that. He liked the
Yeah,
freedom of video games and doing nothing at his mom's house.
right.
Which is not a not an accurate representation. I'm sure
Mhm.
she had her own things that she did there, but
Right, right.
her
That
house
was
was a
your
little
point
bit.
of view, though, and
My point of
how
view
the
is that her
kids
house was
looked at it.
lenient, my house was not.
Mhm, mhm. That's the way it
And
was with our house too. Her house was way less lenient or way more lenient than ours was. I had rules and I had regulations, and you got to stay within those rules, or
you were never strict, though. I would never call you strict.
well, the kids mostly they didn't make me be strict because they knew what my rules were and they knew
Right.
that they had to follow my rules. And
But your rules weren't unreasonable
no, they weren't.
either.
Well, neither were
No.
yours.
Right. I didn't think so.
But and not only that, with my kids, um the more they learned that the more they followed the rules, the more they were going to get out of me, you know? And we did, we had a lot of fun. I would go out and play with them. Their mom never did that. Like I would go out and I took them at this one house that we lived at. There was just this big empty field, like right down the street from our house with, grass and everything. And so we bought a kickball and we would go there almost every day and play kickball because our little family, we had enough for a kickball team, So, we would go out there and play kickball. I taught them all how to ride their bikes, all four of them. Um, I went out, we had hockey gear, so we would go out and play hockey in the street. And then at one point we had an actual hockey rink down the street from our house at the park, and so we'd do that. I taught them all how to hit a ball. I'd take them to the, batting cages and stuff. So they knew, the more they followed our rules, the more we got to go do fun stuff. And that I think helped. But
That's awesome. I was having a couple memories of taking the kids to the county fair. Their
mhm.
mother was a weaver, a
Oh,
fantastic
right. Yeah,
weaver.
she
She was
was.
a weaver and a spinner and a dyer, and she could do anything with art, with fiber
Good.
art. I
Hmm.
call her a fiber goddess because she just knows everything about wool and
Yeah.
fibers of all kinds. And so she had a big loom in her house, right? And we went to the county fair, and the kids were looking at the loom that they had at the county fair, and they said, "We want to try that."
Hmm.
And I said, "Well, there's a long line. There's like 25 people waiting in line. It's going to be a long time before you get up there.
Hmm.
And you have a loom at your house. Haven't you ever tried the loom at your house?"
Hmm.
No, mom doesn't let us touch it.
Oh.
And so we waited in line for like an hour
Hmm.
at the county fair
Yeah.
when there's rides outside and
Yeah.
ponies to pet and all kinds of things
Hmm.
because the kids wanted to try the loom.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
That's what they
Yeah.
want to do.
I have a
And so,
little memory of their mom. She was at our house one day and we were all just standing around talking, right? And I had a husky at the time. And I didn't even notice what she was doing, but by the time she left, she hands me this long piece of yarn. And I was like, "Where'd that come from?" She sat there spinning it out of my dog's hair that he had
right?
lost, that she had lost. So she
Yeah.
She gave me this big old long dog
Piece
hair
of yarn, dog hair yarn.
yarn, and I was like, "Holy shit, you just did that just now?" She was like,
Yeah,
"Yeah." And she picked up some more and she showed me, and I was like, "Holy crap." I will
I
never
know.
forget that though. I was like, "You
She's
are
a
amazing."
she's like a little spider woman. She can just spin that wool and spin
Sure
that
can.
flax and spin dog hair and spin whatever
She
into.
can spin
I've
anything
seen
for
her
yarn,
spin
that woman.
cotton out of trees. Like she can
Yeah.
make string out of anything. I can now too because she taught me how. But and she and I were really good friends at one point. Like she and I
Mhm.
used to
Mhm.
spend a lot of time before the marriages dissolved and we got back together and blah, 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 blah,
Mhm.
blah. And I really miss our friendship.
I bet. Wasn't
I
she in your
love
wedding? She was in your wedding.
she would have been my maid of honor, except that she was pregnant with Ben and she didn't want to have to be the one to throw the parties and all that stuff, totally
Right.
understandably.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she helped me make
Oh
all the
my God.
costumes and stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
She
Yeah.
sewed all the shirts and stuff for the wedding. We
Mhm.
were that kind of friends. And then I was
Yeah.
at the births of her children.
Hey,
That's
baby.
how we were.
Mhm.
And I miss that friendship still. I wish that we could
Yeah.
have maintained that.
Yeah.
I tried a number of times to reach out to her to invite her to Thanksgivings and Christmases and things like that, and she's just mad at me.
Yeah.
Eternally mad at me forever.
Yeah. It's sad how relationships evolve sometimes,
Hmm.
but yeah, in our little family, like I say, the beginning was very rough, you know, very rough waters there, for a very long time. We had so many fights, and there were many times when the police were called, a lot of crazy stuff going on, but there was a couple of times actually that we started. So one day I had a conversation with their mom and I said, "Look, I said, this is really hard on the kids. I said, I would like for us to try and be civil for their sake. Let's stop with the fighting. Let's, do what's best for the kids, not for us." And she agreed and she said, "Okay, let's give it a try." So it was real close to Easter at that time. And so I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, you guys," because we had the kids that year for Easter. And I said, "If you guys would like to come over for Easter, we'll have dinner, we can do an egg hunt, whatever. That way you guys can see the kids on Easter too." And they said, "Okay, yeah, we'll do that." 'Cause by this time she had been remarried as well. And they came over and it was so awkward for everybody involved.
Oh no.
And it was like we were really bad actors in a play or something.
You're like, hi, how
Here's
are
the
you?
potatoes. Hope you enjoy. Yeah, okay. Do you want to play some pool after dinner? Sure, okay. It was really weird. It was very awkward. But the kids were elated. Like they could not wait to show their mom their rooms. They couldn't wait to show their mom the game room. Couldn't wait to show her the backyard. I mean, they were so happy that they got to share everything that day with their mom and their dad and their step parents, both of their step parents, all at the same time. And it wasn't, "Oh, what'd you do at your dad's house?" Or, "Oh, what did your mom get you for Easter?" You know what I mean? It wasn't like that. We were all
Yeah.
together and they loved it. They loved every minute of it. So after that, um, for a little while, it was pretty, okay. We were able to, exchange the kids without fighting. We were able to, we did go to each other's houses a couple more times, having barbecues or whatever. And it got a little bit easier. And then one day it just all went to hell. And there was another big fight, and now it was back to same old, same old. But then years
Seems
later,
like there's always this very fragile bubble that happens. You're building a little trust, you're building a little patience, you're building a little trust and a little patience, and then
mhm,
somebody fucks up and it's like, boom, it's gone.
yeah,
To
yeah,
start all over from scratch again.
yeah. Um, but luckily years later, and actually it was kind of funny because she had seen an episode of Dr. Phil that really caught her eye. And what she told me was when she saw this episode, it was about families of divorced kids and how one parent's way of life with them after the divorce really screwed them up, like fucked those kids up for life. And the kids were there talking about it, and all the parents and step parents were there. And I guess, her watching it and realizing that some of the things that the parents did to fuck up their kids, she was doing. And so she told me, she says, I don't want to do that anymore. She says, I don't want to do that to my kids. Can we try and get along again? And I was like, heck yeah. So from that point on, we were able to we kind of built a friendship, you know, and we were able to go to each other's houses and, we celebrated birthdays together. We celebrated holidays together, just, and it was so much
That's all I
better.
ever wanted was to
Yeah.
do that for the kids and
Yeah. And the
our
nice thing about that too is that at that point, she kind of let go of trying to hold on to the kids and make them come to her house when they didn't want to. So she let them know, wherever you want to live is your choice. And if you want to come here on this day and go there on that day, it's your choice. And that made things a lot easier too. The kids were so much happier because they knew, and it wasn't like by that point, they weren't like, oh, I'm mad at you. I'm going to my mom's house. Or, oh, I don't like the way you're doing this. I'm going to my dad's house. It wasn't like that. It became, you know, them truly having a better relationship, I think, with all of us. So it was nice that we actually got to get to that point. I know not all families get there, but
right.
I was really happy that it finally did get there.
It
So,
evolved to that point.
hmm
Yeah, that's
hmm
good.
yeah, and to this day, her and I can talk and we're fine. you know. So,
That's good. My kid's biological mother and I really don't talk. We don't. But if we were in the same room together, we would be kind to each other. We would be
right, yeah.
friendly. We would be, there would be a kind exchange that would happen there.
Hmm.
We don't really have any reason to be together anymore because the kids are grown and they
Yeah.
live with her full time. But the kids still come over to my house to come fix my car sometimes or just to visit with
Hmm.
me. They come over to sit in my living room. And those are the most precious times to me
Oh
is when
yeah.
all four of them are here. The four of my children are very, very close to each other. So regardless of all the fights and whatever their parents went through, da 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 da, the four kids are super tight.
I love that.
They love to spend time together. And the other day, I took them all out in the canoe. I have a canoe and a paddleboard, so three kids can sit in a canoe, and then
Hmm.
one kid was on the paddleboard. And my husband and I sat there on the shore and watched them sail away from us. They got really far
Oh,
all the way right on the other side of the lake and we couldn't see them anymore. We couldn't tell if they were still upright or not. And he said, well, what's going to happen if they capsize the boat? I said, well, they're 25 and 23. They're going to have to figure it out because their old parents are clear the hell across the lake. I said, you know what? They're grown-ups now,
yeah.
and I
Yeah.
just had this moment of just being like, I just trusted my big kids to take my little kids out on the lake by
Yeah.
themselves. I'm not out there to protect them. I can't do anything. I can just stand here and watch them and hope that I did all the right things
Hmm.
to make sure that they know what to do to survive, which I did. I taught them all how to swim.
Yeah.
Taught them all how to get along. I taught them all how to paddle a canoe, and now they're
Yeah.
out there, and
You taught
I'm
them
just
all how to
really
love each other.
how to love each other, and they do. They love
You
each other
do.
big time.
You do. Yeah. Yeah. All
How
my
are your
kids
kids
do
getting
too.
along?
All
Do
my
they?
kids love each other. And it's funny because Emily and Isaac were like this growing up. They were each other's best friend. They loved each other so much. And I mean, they loved their other brother and sister too, but the two of them were like two peas in a pod. And, they are, what, like 8 years apart in age? No, 6 years apart in age. And, yeah, they're still very close. They'll talk on the phone or they'll get together when Emily goes to Colorado. She gets together with her sister and her brothers and I love that. I love that they're all adults now and they still are in each other's lives and they still love each other and you know my youngest will call my oldest if she has something that she needs to talk about, with a girl and she doesn't feel like she can talk to her mom and whatever she'll call and and I love that. I love that. You know. It's so nice to
Me
see.
too.
Yeah.
Me too.
And growing up, they were fairly close, all of them. It was funny because there'd be Caitlin and Michael were like this, and Emily and Isaac were like this. And like Caitlin and Isaac would fight, like cats and dogs. Michael and Emily would fight like cats and dogs. But no matter what, when it came down to it, they protected each other so well. And I remember this was gosh, I want to say Emily was like 13, right? And so she had friends that were boys, and there was this one that came over a couple of times, right? And so the kids all knew him, and Michael was just, was it Michael? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Michael. He was just like acting like he was in a bad mood, you know. He was walking around like this, and he was, you know, and I was like, Michael, what's wrong? And he goes, that's my sister. He better not kiss her. I'm keeping an eye on him.
He better not kiss her.
Uh-huh.
I can see him saying that. That's so
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah. I
I
love it
love it.
though.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Well, on that happy note, I think we better wrap this up a little bit. Is there anything more you want to say about being a stepmom?
You know, just that it's hard, but it's also rewarding. And
Oh,
I'll tell
yeah.
you what, I love being a stepmom. I love being a mom and I love being a stepmom. And I love just having this extended family that no matter what is always going to be there for me. And I'll always be there for them. You know, my kids know they can come to me with anything at any time. And I love
Yeah,
it. And you
that's
know, there's support out there though for those of us who are having a hard time. I mean, definitely reach out if you need anything. You know, you can write to us. You know, write to us and we'll give you some encouragement. We'll be your friend.
absolutely. We'll be your friend. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this podcast, everyone. It's been so nice to hang out with you and to talk about being stepmoms and having mixed families. And we look forward to speaking with you in another episode.
Absolutely. Happy travels, everyone.
Happy travels indeed.